Rendering is the last step in our pipeline in Nuke. When we're all done with our post effects and compositing, and we're ready to render, we can choose how we'd like to render and from what point in our flow we'd like to render out images. In this case, I've got a node graph with two different flows in it, one of a highly stylized black and white daytime image of my house, and one of a dusk shot in color. I'll render out both of these, and we have a choice in here of what format we'd like to render in and where it's going to go. For example, we may render out one frame and take it out to print or for posting online. Alternately, we may render out a sequence for import into a nonlinear editor such as Apple Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere. I'm going to put a write node onto my flow, setting up where the frame goes, what it's named, and what format I'm using. I'll start out here on my daylight image. What I've done is to alter that rectangle, pulling up the 0.0 Y to 250, so I get a little more light down at the horizon and let the darkness with the clouds go up to the top of the image. I'll scroll up, pick Merge 3, the last node in the flow, and press W for write. In a write node then, we specify the file and where it goes, and then the format. I'll click on the File folder here in the File line, and browse over to the Finished Images directory I've put in the exercise files. I've included the finished images out of Nuke for this course, so you get an idea of, when this is all done, what it looks like. In the Finished Images folder, I'll click Save, and then I'll name the file, clicking after the / and naming this House Day BW. And I'm going to save this as a TIFF, putting in .tiff at the end. It's important to make sure you put in the file name and extension. Otherwise, you'll get files, and every nonlinear editor out there will go, what? Because it won't recognize it as any particular format. You can also specify a file type through the drop-down here, but having the extension on that name is important. If you're rendering out a sequence, put in # for frame padding after the name. For example, if I was going to render out 100 frames of this, I'd put in ###, which will number it 0 through 100. Because I'm just doing a still, I'm going to leave that off. We can choose in here what our data type is per format, 8, 16, or 32-bit. Are we running in a different color space than sRGB, and so on. When you're ready, you can click Render. And in this case, because I'm doing a still image, I'll render out frame 1, or actually 1 to 1. I'll click OK, and it'll render, and that was it. It rendered out that flow with the right node. It left alone my dusk rendering, so I'll need another write node for that particular section of my node graph to make an image. I'll go take a look at my daytime image and see how it came out. When I open up that image, I get a terrific image of this house. Very, very stylized, with practically glowing bright plants, black and white with very stylized, flowing clouds in the background. This is a place where I'd probably put in a background plate and maybe some stylized clouds or some more work to mask them out so I see more of my gradient sky. However, the work I've done in post is paying off. The masks, depth, color correction, and so on gives me the rich final image I'm after to showcase this design. I'll render out the dusk image as well and show what it looks like when I'm done. I've rendered out my dusk house, taking out the clouds in that card and just using a gradient that I've set from deep blue to pink, actually. It's a sunset look behind the house and really makes the colors pop out. I've merged over this sky, using again the mask of the original house to mask where that merge is occurring. And it really looks like the lights are on and the house is being lit by a very, very soft sun, as well as the interior and exterior lights. And it's against that clear, beautifully colored desert sky. This again is a place to put in a background plate or other composite before that sky, putting in hills, for example, and really setting the house in a particular place. As we're seeing, the effort to get flexibility in post and then use that flexibility to really fine-tune the artistic feel of it is well worth it because we get some very evocative images fairly easily.